All right, now that you have built the entire sheet for one category, so I have all of my information for out-of-state tuition, I have used the formulas to find all of my descriptive statistics, the frequency distribution, the within 1, 2, and 3 standard deviations. Okay, what I want to do is, instead of having to retype all of the formulas for each of the 6 categories, after I've built it for one, I'm just going to click somewhere on the outside of my information, and I'm going to hit Control and A, and notice it selects the entire spreadsheet, and I'm going to hit Control and the letter C to copy it, so Control C as in copy, and I'm going to create a new sheet. For this sheet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename it so that it's the proportion of students with financial aid. And that's the data that I'm going to replace this data, the existing data with. So I'm going to first hit Control and V. I was still on this. Let me go back to the rename. Sorry. Let me delete back to here. All right, make sure you get off of renaming it and then hit Control and V, and notice that it readjusts everything so it looks the same as what you had before. All the colors are the same, but right now this is identical to the out-of-state tuition. So if we go to data, I'm going to select the data for the students receiving financial aid by hitting Control and C, and then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to replace A1 through A25 with that data. And if you notice, it automatically readjusts. There's some errors that I have to fix because obviously right now it doesn't match up. Like you can see that the histogram has to be reformatted and that stuff. So we will look at everything one by one. The first thing that I notice is I have dollar signs showing up. I do not want these to be currency any longer. I want them to be numbers because all of my data points are between 0 and 1 and they are not currency. Same with here, everywhere that I have currency, I am going to change this to numbers. And wherever I have currency down here, I am also going to change that to numbers. Okay, so I want to get rid of all the dollar signs first because it doesn't make sense. Now I'm going to look at my class width. The class width, the reason this +1 is here is because in the last one it didn't round up because it was missing the max, so I don't want that there. The other thing that I want to adjust is right now with the round up to 0, it rounds to the nearest whole number. All of these values are between 0 and 1, so it does not make sense. These are really percentages, so 1% as a decimal is 0.01. So I want to round to 2 decimal places. Since all of my data is 2 decimal places, I do need to change that for the proportion categories. For enrollment and all of the currency categories, those we would leave as 0. Okay, notice we have some errors here that we still need to adjust. So the next thing that we want to adjust is, if you recall, our class upper limit should be 1 less. Well, because of the fact that we're dealing again with proportions, this should be 0.01 instead of 1. And now it adjusts everything and we can look to see what's happening. So this one did miss the maximum value again, which means that it went in evenly when I subtracted this, the H2, the max minus the min, and I divided it by my number of classes. So because it missed those, we're going to add plus 0.01 to this. And then that way it now goes up to 0.98. So you can see that it goes up to 25. So all of my data points are now represented. Okay. So that is something that we would need to do. The minimum is 0.45. So if you notice down here that my percentage for within 3 standard deviations does not add up to 100%, that's okay. It's okay that it doesn't add up to 100%. It just means that we have something that's more than 3 standard deviations away. So if you notice that the lower value is 0.5, 0.45 falls to the left of that. So that's why it's not included. It's okay to not have that. We do have to change this graphic because right now the graphic is not using the data that I want it to. So what I want to do is go to my midpoint and my frequency and then just do the quick analysis tab, or however you had to build yours. Remember that there was many videos that showed you how to do it. And so I'm going to do this one. And then I'm going to go in and do the quick layout that I want it to be touching. So I want this one. The access title, we do have to change this. So this would be the proportion with financial aid. Okay. Down here, we would label this as our midpoint because we're using our midpoint. And this over here would be our frequency. Okay, so make sure that you change that. And then we do need to change the shape of this one. So this one, majority of our information is to the right, and you can see that the tail goes to the left. So instead of being skewed right, this one would be skewed left. So you do have to do some adjustments, but you don't have to retype all of the formulas every time you get to something. And this also showed you what to do when you're dealing with the proportion category. So now you could go ahead and copy and paste again and go to your next values and just make sure that you fix and adjust all of the things that I had to adjust. Hopefully that helps you with being able to repeat for each of them. Remember that you do have to have all 6 categories completely done. So you should have a tab for in-state, out-of-state, the average financial dollar amount of aid. You also need enrollment, the overall graduation rate, and you need a scatter plot, which there is a video below that shows you how to create that once you get to it. As always, thanks for watching. If you have questions, please email me. Please send your spreadsheet with it because otherwise it's very hard for me to help you troubleshoot if I can't see where you're having your problem.